What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Quadcast, the show where we get real, get raw, and get loud about mental health, substance use, and the fight to take our lives back.
Each episode, we're cutting through the stigma, dropping knowledge, sharing stories, and bringing the heat with guests who have lived it and aren't afraid to talk about it.
So turn it up, lock in, and let's break barriers, spark change, and build a community that refuses to stay silent. You're tuned into the Quadcast, and let's get into it.
You can find us on Patreon, Facebook, Instagram, or email us. The Quadcast is always looking for new guests, whether you're individuals that have experienced it, you're in law enforcement, treatment programs, nurses, doctors, or anyone that just has something to say. Come share your story with us on mental health or substance abuse.
Warning, there's cussing in this video. If you don't like swear words, well, you're
watching the wrong damn show.
So how did the church family accept you in? Was there any type of stigma there? Obviously,
No.
with them supporting the recovery side of things, I would suspect there wouldn't be.
No, absolutely not. They were welcomed. Me and my son, we started going, and they welcomed us with open arms. They've been great. They stay active with the kids. They've actually called to check on us while we haven't been there for a few weeks. I'm like, well, we got football, and they're scheduling the games for Sunday. They're like, okay, well, we miss y'all and hope to see you soon. And I told the pastor, I went that Sunday, and I think I called him later in the week, and he gave me his personal number, and I called him and kind of give him the story on my background, and they've been great with it. I feel like there's no judgment there. A lot of people feel like churches, especially in small towns, are really judgmental towards stuff like that.
Absolutely, and that was one of the motivations behind that question, because I feel like that could be a stigma between somebody wanting to seek the spiritual side of things.
Yeah. And my advice to that is, there's always, I'm not saying some churches aren't like that, because I'm sure there is. I've heard stories,
Sure.
I can't say that I've experienced it myself, but if you go to a church and that's something you want to try, and you feel like there's that judgmental stigma there, try another one. Like I said earlier, don't quit trying. Like, if that's the path you want to go, and it's working for you, just because one doesn't work out, there's more out there. I mean, there's churches everywhere,
Yeah, and I mean, obviously each one of them are ran differently and a different congregation, and not every single one of them is going to look at you the same. And I can't say that I've experienced it. I'm not in the churches to know, but that's just, from outside looking in, that was one of the reasons I asked that question, was because of the stigma with it and how some people view the church setting.
Yeah, and I will say, like, for, someone in recovery, Lifeline churches. I know there's one in Hinton, there's one in Princeton, there's one in Peterstown. I'm not sure about Greenbrier County or up that way, but I know the Lifeline churches, especially in Hinton and Peterstown and Princeton, and I think there's more other places, but they are really recovery focused, I guess. They do the Celebrate Recovery stuff at Lifeline churches, and I'm sure some other churches do it. You can look them up at the Celebrate Recovery website, and it'll give you a list of where they are. But the Lifeline churches are, really, I feel like, recovery focused with their sermons and stuff and the way they operate.
Gotcha. I'll have to pull a list of those up and see if we've got any here in Greenbrier. I'm not 100% sure. None of them pop into mind.
I know there used to be a Celebrate Recovery meeting or program in Raynell. I'm not sure if it's still going or not.
I can't answer that one either. I try to not hang out on the West End a whole lot.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
What was your experience like inside the treatment facility that you went to down in Florida? Like, what was routine, just day to day life?
So, when you get there, and it's a they don't do any kind of medical treatment there, so there's no any kind of medication other than like Tylenol and Advil to help you get through like withdrawals or whatever. There's some people that come in down there that I've seen, straight off the streets and coming off alcohol or drugs or whatever, and they were in really rough shape.
Right, right,
And if it got to a point to where, it was something that they thought was a health concern, they'd send you somewhere else and you could come back. But as far as like everyday routine, after you're there, usually they won't let anyone work because they have the construction business, and then they've got like it's an old prison that the pastor bought. And I mean, it's not like bar cells or nothing. It was a dorm setting. They have their own kitchen. They have a gym there. The church is on site. Um, they do, they'll take the guys that are in the program that's been there for a while, and they do the cooking. And, um, but as far as like when you first get there, usually for the first 30 days, you pretty much just hang out, read. They really push you to go into the chapel and just spend some time there and try to, you know, I guess grow closer to God and just figure out your path. I don't know.
self reflect a little.
Yeah. Um my case was a little bit different because I made sure that I detoxed before I went.
Hmm.
And I've got experience in construction and stuff, and I didn't want to just sit still, so I got there, I hung out for like a day or two, and I was like, can I please just go to work? I said, I know what I'm doing. I can build houses. I can do whatever y'all want to do.
Right.
And they finally, I think the first day I asked, they didn't let me. And the next day I asked again, and I ended up going out on the construction crew building a house. And that's where I was the rest of the time. They, I guess, seen that I could do what they needed to do, and I wasn't a liability at the time because I had already, gotten detoxed. So
Right.
I spent a lot of time staying busy, whether it be building houses. They have a lawn care and landscaping business. When I wasn't doing that, building houses, I would go out with Zach. He actually graduated from there too, and he kind of stays on site and helps run the facility. And we mowed grass, did landscaping. I helped build a mobile coffee shop for them. They had an old Airstream camper. I helped remodel it and turn it into a coffee shop. I did mechanic work, just anything I could to stay busy and help them too, because it's a free program, and there's a lot of money that goes into operating a facility like that.
Sure.
And just kind of, did my part, and it helped them and it helped me too.
I was going to say, yeah, it helped them, but it gave you a purpose while being there.
Yeah,
And I think that is what most people in the addiction scene thrive for is a purpose.
absolutely.
Um, were there any services you wish had been available? Mental health care, trauma support, medical services, any type of treatment programs that, like state level, whatever, that you wish were available at the time that you were ready to seek treatment that weren't?
I mean, I would say that I think there's options out there, plenty of options if you just got to do some research, and figure out what route you want to go. But I feel like, I mean, personally, I feel like the addiction treatment and mental health stuff has really come a long way in the last few years. I feel like there's several options out there. You know, I know when I found that place in Florida, there were several other options. I could have went to, I think it was Recovery Ridge, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I wish there, and I think that a lot of those places, you know, even at the state level, can help you get either grants. I think there's even grants that the government's put out for substance treatment now. If you can't get a medical card or don't have insurance, if I'm not mistaken, there's grants because my sister-in-law is actually a substance abuse and mental health counselor.
Okay.
And she had found a place, I believe it was in Maryland, that it wasn't free, but they could help you get a grant to pay for it.
Okay.
So I feel like there's a lot of options. You just gotta, you know, you gotta put the work into it, and I know that can be hard when dealing with, you know, coming off of drugs and just dealing with trying to figure out what you want to do. But that's where finding someone to, you know, I guess
A-
help you out, whether it be a family member or reaching out to a hotline somewhere for addiction treatment, you know.
to advocate for you.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think, at a state level, I think we could take it a little bit more seriously than what we are,
Yeah.
on both sides, both addiction and mental health. Um, and at a federal level, I think the same. I think most of the things that we're dealing with you know, countrywide are addiction and mental health, which are tying into a lot of these other big issues that we're dealing with, gun violence and just behavioral issues in schools and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it's a very contributing factor to the bigger things that we're dealing with. So, I think we could take it a lot more seriously. But I think at a level that we are now, you know, as long as you are motivated in seeking help or have somebody to help you, there are good options out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that I think could be, I guess, and I just thought of this, that could be better with the way we deal with it is pushing all the Suboxone and stuff. You know, I I'm not saying that I think Suboxone should be a short term treatment. You know, for the first month or so, help you kind of get through the withdrawal symptoms and like wean yourself off. I don't think that it is meant to be. I don't think it was originally even designed to be a long term, you know, multiple year treatment
It
because,
wasn't. It was a it was made to be used during detox and
yeah,
be done with it. And we've just over time gotten to where now we're treating long term with it, and it doesn't do any good. You know,
no, I
as a
mean,
police officer, I was confiscating more of it off the street than I was heroin.
I definitely believe that. And like the withdrawals from, you know, Suboxone, especially long term Suboxone use, you know, Suboxone, Subutex, either of those two, the withdrawals are, in my experience, worse than heroin and a lot longer. I mean, you can withdraw on that stuff for up to a month, it feels
Oh,
like. I
yeah.
know it's a totally different thing. Like, it's just as bad coming off of it as heroin if not done the proper way. And, you
God,
know, using it long term just heats, you know, puts fuel to the fire. I feel like you become dependent on it. I know I did at one point in time.
so yeah, I just I don't know how we've gotten to this point with the Suboxone treatment method or the Subutex. Honestly, you don't hear much about it anymore because of how some of the regulations that's went into it, and but it is still out there. I know just in the last year of a couple individuals that were in a Suboxone program in the Beckley area, and it was short term or supposed to be short term, and I can't speak to it now whether they're still being treated for it or not, but I I would prefer people go a different route than those. That's just me, and you know you're you're agreeing with it, but I don't know what the alternative is. You just have to be motivated enough to detox.
Yeah, I mean the motivation part definitely is a big part of it because ultimately, when you're on Suboxone long term, you're still not fixing the root cause of just using something to mask your feelings and emotions, and like it's you're just substituting an illegal drug for something a doctor can write you, and that's really not getting to the root cause. Like, and I'm not. I, I guess if you're using it the right way, I encourage anybody to gain sobriety any way they can, but I mean, can you really just cover one problem with another? Because that's really what you're doing. You're not fixing anything.
Sure. What would you tell law enforcement officers about working with people experiencing addiction?
Um, let me think. Just I don't know.
That it's a hard one. I mean,
Like I understand law enforcement has a job to do, and I feel like there's a lot of good cops and a few bad ones out there. And just understanding, I guess, like there's a fine line there between having sympathy and understanding and still doing your job, I guess. And I could see where that can be hard to do, I would imagine. But, maybe try to do some, if you don't know how to deal with it, try to learn about it, try to understand it. It's just like you said, you want to learn why people are going through this. I would encourage anyone, law enforcement or anyone, to try and understand it because it could very well be anyone, anyone in your family or whoever, and just try to understand it however possible and do your job, but still give that person the hope and encouragement to try to do the right thing, I guess, if that makes sense.
sure. So, with that, would you feel that the legal system treats addiction primarily as a criminal issue or a health issue?
Well, I feel like that's a different answer for different parts of the country. There's
I think you're correct.
some places that it's still definitely a criminal thing, and then there's some local governments and jurisdictions that are really a stepping stone in understanding it and how to deal with it, and show that there's repercussions for it, but there's also a way for them to help whoever it is out of it too, I guess.
I definitely agree with that. You know, as a former police officer myself, I dealt with a lot of people in the addiction world and the drug world. And, you know, unless it was super bad, I would always try to help you first.
Yeah.
I would rather take you wherever to let you try and help yourself than take you to jail. Um, because putting you in jail doesn't really fix the problem because these days there's just as much dope in jail.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So why would I take you off the street for drugs and put you in another drug rich environment when I can give you the option to seek treatment and me drive you there? You know what
Yeah. And I feel like there's a fine line there too, to where someone, because I've been guilty of it myself, a cop lets you off or whatever, and you start to feel like you're kind of invincible. Like the, there's a fine line between helping and enabling, and that comes from the law enforcement side or family side, whatever of it.
I mean? I can definitely agree with you there.
Um, yeah, and I don't really know what the solution or the right way to go about dealing with that is, but like, yeah, I guess definitely, try to help, but also know, let it be known that there's repercussions if you don't follow through with the help that's trying to be given to you.
Right. And that's the way that I normally treated things. I always approached it with, I would, if I was in a hard spot like that, how's I would want to be treated. And, we all want to be given a second chance, but at the same time, we also forget that we have to be deserving of that.
Yeah,
And if we're granted that second chance, then we need to stand to it and
exactly.
be about it. And, if I caught you screwing up again, I was going to take you to jail. I was going to charge you. And if
Yeah,
it was still within the uh, grounds to charge you, I'll write the criminal complaint and charge you with what I've got you for the first time.
yeah, for sure.
And, but I feel like that's the only way to be fair and have accountability for that lifestyle and interactions with people.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know that you said um, Todd Williams, Big Todd, was a big beneficial part of your graduating drug court. How do you care to touch on how he was that big part?
Absolutely. So I remember I told you about Doug, catching me high and everything, and I
Yeah.
went to jail for those 2 weeks, and Jolliffe was going to let me out, but I had to find a new place to go live. I could not um, go back with the girlfriend I was living with. I had to, if I could find a new place to go and do my home confinement and everything, that, you know, I could get out and stay in drug court. And my mom at that time, she was living up in Frankfurt, and she was, yeah, she was still doing stuff, but that was where I had to go.
Right.
Um, and she did not want me coming there. She did not want me around her. We, had our falling outs. We weren't speaking. And I remember sitting in the holding cell down in the old jail there after drug court. They had me down in the holding cell till we could figure something out. And I got to make a couple calls, and she said no. And Todd come down there, and we were talking, and, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, Todd. I said, I don't know. I don't have anywhere else to go. He said, well, give me your mom's number. He said, let me call her. And he called her, and if I remember right, he talked to her for probably an hour, trying to get her to agree to it and everything. And he kind of, didn't have to, but he kind of stepped in and was like, look, I'll take accountability for him if you'll just let him come stay there. Like, I'll keep on him. I'll hold him accountable. I'll do what I can to make him do what he needs to do. And, I'm forever grateful to Todd for that. I know I haven't talked to him for a while, but I guess it was right after Jeremy had OD'd and died. I went down to the police station in Alderson and was talking to him about some concerns I had with the way some of the things were handled with that. And
Hmm.
Todd's a good dude, man. He definitely helped me out more times than I deserved. I remember when I was in drug court before I got my driver's license back. I got caught driving in Williamsburg. I was driving like right down the street to the post office, and Will Nestor pulled me over and was giving me a hard time. And
Oh, Will.
yeah, and Todd really helped me get through that, because I very well could have got kicked out of drug court for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that, like you said earlier, there's a lot of good cops and there's a few bad ones. In our community, I think there's obviously way more good than bad. Um, you see it on a huge scale level when you
Yeah,
watch the news, but I think just on a personal side of things, this community is very lucky to have the police officers that we have. Um, just because it's such a tight knit community. Expect over in Monroe County, the same. You got some of the same cops over there. Have been cops since we were kids. So, um, but that other 1% makes the rest of them look bad.
for sure.
So, well, man, I won't hold you up for any longer. Do you have anything that you want to say, touch on that we didn't touch on?
No, not really. I just want to say that, like I've said, don't, if there's someone listening to this that, is going through substance abuse or even mental health, just, if you've tried something and it didn't work for you, keep trying. Don't give up, because your life's worth more than that. Just keep trying until you find something that works. Don't ever quit trying, asking for help and exploring new options. And, that's the best advice I have. Find a support system and get through it. You can do it.
I think if someone has the mindset that they need to be in and hear that one piece of advice that you shared, I think that that can take you as far and wide as you want it to, but you have to be willing to do so.
Absolutely.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us this evening. And like I said, shoot me that information whenever you have time or tomorrow. It doesn't matter, and I'll attach it to the video. That way, they have it. But other than that, I think that's all I have for this one. If you think of anything in the future and want to jump back on or just want to share an update, holler at me and we'll do it.
All right, Mike. I appreciate you, buddy, and
Yeah,
thanks for having me. And yeah,
absolutely.
I'll shoot you that info over.
Sounds good, buddy. Like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yep. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Quadcast.
Remember, breaking stigma doesn't stop when the episode ends. We're building a movement, and you're a part of it. Stay strong, stay aware, and stay connected.
And this is the Quadcast, signing out.